thinking recently about what certain shows are about. Not literally, but more thematically. What is in the subtext of a lot of these long-running shows? King of the Hill might be about a family living in Texas, sure, but it's thematically about a man struggling to connect with his son that's growing up in a new generation that he doesn't fully understand and is consistently changing. That's at least an abridged version. My homeboy Johnny talked about it a few times. But I wanted to turn this conversation to a different show, Family Guy. A 1999 Seth MacFarlane cartoon with random cutaways, inconsistent characters, and a 1-year-old having a fucking dog's kids.
Hey, I went by your house the other day. Is your baby pregnant?
What exactly is this cartoon about? A show that, if you ask them niggas, has never won any awards.
Hey, that's no fair. I don't got none of them. 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 I don't got none of them.
Now, I've always maintained that I think Family Guy is a show about a bunch of performers putting on a show every week. Think Mario, think Mickey, think Looney Tunes. Not only does that explain the inconsistent nature of the characters, but is showcased to be true multiple times throughout the run, whether it be in an actual episode or how the theme song is just a big Broadway illusion. But if this is true, right, the show that these characters are creating, what's that about? There has to be something going on thematically, right? How could you run for this long without a theme? I think that there are 2 episodes that you can point to that can clearly tell you what Family Guy is about. And I think the coolest thing about those episodes is that they come from the first and last season. These are season 1's I Never Met the Dead Man and season 20's 80s Guy. In I've Never Met the Dead Man, Peter crashes into the town's satellite while teaching Meg how to drive, which knocks out all of the TV and Quahog.
Of course, no one can see this news program, so it doesn't really matter what we say. I think I'll go get drunk and beat up some midgets. How about you, Diane?
Well, Tom, I just plain don't like black people.
Boom, back. Rest in piston, nigga. Fuck out my face.
You guys, we're still on in Boston?
Peter goes nuts after not having TV, and he ultimately learns how to live a life without it. He spends time with his family, goes out more, actively enjoys his life. The episode does end with him falling back in love with television, but notice this character turn. If you take television out of the equation, he's practically just a normal guy. A guy that actually cares about his family and the people around him. Now with 80s Guy, right, it still brushes against Peter's obsession with television and movies, primarily from the 80s, but it also challenges what happens not when you take this stuff away from Peter, but when you tell him that it's wrong. Which honestly has been a consistent thread throughout the entire run of the show.
Dad, what are you saying?
I don't like what the world is. I'm white. When's it gonna be our turn?
80s Guy is about Peter putting Chris onto some 80s movies after he asks him for like dating advice or something like that, which ultimately leads to him getting into trouble because the movies are fucking nasty, bro. Like real shit. When the last time y'all saw Weird Science?
Hey, brother. What's happening, my main man? Right on.
No, Peter, your 80s nostalgia isn't funny anymore. It's tired and worn out and borderline dangerous. I mean, those old references just don't play the same in today's world. When are you gonna let the 80s go?
And throughout the episode, we see Peter trying to find a different decade to latch onto. Literally any other one that isn't this one. He does everything but stay present in this time. He needs some kind of like old media or old lifestyle, right, to model himself after and latch onto.
You're right, Lois. No matter how hard I try, I'll never find a decade as good as the 80s, like you just said just now.
Okay, so here's where it gets interesting. Because I feel like with the context of both of these episodes and what they're about, and the journey that they take Peter on, it creates a very interesting picture of what Family Guy is truly about thematically. Keep in mind that both of these stories are tied into media that Peter consumes, primarily television. That's why most episodes early on start with them watching television. That's why there's a TV in the logo. While the very first line of the theme song is a fourth wall breaking question about the state of television in general. Family Guy, I think, is a show about a guy that grew up watching television at a very specific time. And the same man uses the same values and lessons and tones of these very same shows that he grew up idolizing and tries to apply them in present day while raising his family. But he doesn't take into account that times change, things move on, values evolve and normally are challenged, and life just doesn't always work like how you see it on TV. And sometimes the things we grew up with were just wrong. Archie Bunker was always dead wrong. We've culturally moved past thinking the Fonz is cool. Love the Honeymooners to death, right? But I will never be cool with the fact that this nigga threatening to beat his wife was just a running gag.
To the moon, Lois!
To the moon? What does that mean?
You know, to the moon.
Okay, you're threatening to punch me so hard I'm gonna fly to the moon? Like it's funny to hit me so violently my body will fly out of the atmosphere.
Well, it's not funny anymore.
What happens when Peter cuts TV out of his life? He spends time with his family, he actually becomes a father. Suddenly, his judgment isn't so clouded and he can see everything that's right in front of him. It's almost as if he's like what people think television does to the youth.
Just because you stop being crazy about one decade doesn't mean you have to be crazy about another. How about you just be a normal human being for once, huh? Just be a husband to your wife, be a father to your children.
But Peter is also nostalgic. He's so stuck in the past values that he was taught through TV because that's all he's ever had to make sense of the world. When these values are challenged, he doesn't understand how to deal with it or why they're even wrong. And while I think the show doesn't always tell him why they're wrong, it definitely tells the audience. I guess in a way too, the theme song is literally Peter's plight. I used to think it was kind of like an irony thing. The idea of being upset with all the violence in movies and sex on TV while showcasing both of them. And to be honest, it could still be that. But just off the first line, it's Peter and Lois asking, why aren't things like they used to be? Where did all of the old school TV dads go? What happened to all of the values that we grew up on? Well, lucky for us, there's somebody who still lives by those values. I think Family Guy is saying that a lot of the values that we grew up on are really toxic and when applied to your actual family would not fly. It would lead to chaos, similar to the chaotic nature of how he treats his children, his wife, and just this cartoon in general. It's a show about what happens when you turn to television or movies for your lessons instead of living your life, adapting and learning from your experiences. It's about what happens when you're overly nostalgic and not present. What happens when you rely on television for good old-fashioned values. I swear, I don't be like doing these videos as a way to kind of like talk y'all into liking Family Guy, no shit like that, but I don't know. I just think that this shit is cool. How something you wouldn't think had all of this subtext going on consistently had it for 20 years.
Oh my God, Chris is out of control.
I know. Must be all the violence in movies and sex on TV.
Oh.
See, I listen.
Or it could just be a fucking stupid cartoon, man. Fuck, yeah, think what you want, nigga. I don't give a fuck. You already watched the video, biatch. So I don't know how long any of you have been watching these videos, but if it's been a few years, you'd probably know just how complicated my relationship has been with the 1999 animated series Family Guy. I went from loving it as a kid to hating it as a teenager, definitely in part due to South Park, to practically becoming emotionally dependent on it as an adult with mad bills to pay. Back in June of 2021, I put out this tweet, check it out. I miss when adult comedy animated series would just let sweet moments rock. Like, don't get me wrong, there's sweet moments, but I noticed they try to sneak a gag in the middle of a sincere moment to kind of break it up. I miss when Homer and Marge could just sing into the sunset. Feeling like this is probably why I really latch on to whenever Family Guy does this in the newer stuff. I think about both of these episodes at least once a week. Bruh. I think there's this overwhelming belief that the characters in Family Guy just keep getting meaner and meaner to each other, and the show just gradually moved to a more nasty overall tone. And yeah, no, I don't really think that's a wrong belief.
Who the fuck starts a conversation like that? I just sat down.
It's stupid, man.
You gonna give me more money?
Hi, Dad.
Oh, word?
It's a stupid show. You won't catch any fight from me there. But throughout the course of this video, I kind of want to challenge this idea. Family Guy can be rude and nasty, but it could also be really sincere and sweet in its own way. And still, when an old lady died, I promise it wasn't their last hurrah. I don't even think I'm gonna talk about anything from the first 3 seasons for this. Oof. Hey, I got next though. Let's get into it. Don't worry, I will be sure to pronounce every word so y'all could stop misquoting me. I guess you guys just don't understand slang or whatever.
Miss Havisham should have throwed that cake out so it don't like mess all up the bitch's house. I don't know what to do.
Not me. This is the heart of Family Guy, or when Family Guy was freaking sweet, because y'all are dead ass geniuses.
Sorry, bro. I don't know what to tell you, but we're not gonna watch this one.
I know. I know.
This ain't televised, they telling lies, but promise I won't. We've been patronized, they taking lives, I'm on my way home. Relax my mind about half the time I'm watching cartoons for nights, how I'm locked in my room. Of course they resemble my skin when I watch too. Hypnotizing, tannic, how I frolic through the vibes. Okay, dreaming mama's proud as if she looks through penny size. I'm a man of the house like Oscar. We deceive, I believe need Oscar. James Earl when I speak, I'm a Fossa. Gotta swerve in the streets, never block us. I go. Feel more, just try to make you feel more. Through the halls I felt scorns. Looking at me cause I don't like what you like, you feel torn. Should've smacked your light slick back, you ain't seen pimpin' before. For the stars I shoot pimpin', no boy, you best set the score.
Alright, I don't want to just stuff this video with pre-HD episodes. It kind of just defeats the purpose of what I'm trying to prove. But I really thought this episode was one of the ones that was worth it. Meet the Quagmires from season 5 is one of my go-to examples of what Heart and Family Guy could and should look like.
Could I wham my Oingo Boingo into your velvet underground?
Peter feels like he didn't get a chance to be a wild-ass teenager, so he gets Death to take him back in time for a little bit so he can live it up for a few hours. But when he goes back, he's married to Molly Ringwald, and Quagmire over here duffing Lois shit from the back all crazy. The rest of the episode is Peter fighting an uphill battle with his immaturity in order to realize that his relationship with Lois is more important than literally anything else, because apparently life is just lit if these two aren't married.
Hey, did you guys hear on the news about President Gore hunting down and killing Osama bin Laden with his bare hands?
Man, it's been a rough day. First, Terrific Tariq reviewed Static Shock, then he followed it up with Fillmore, Pepper Ann, Daria, and threw us a little curveball with Lloyd in Space.
Oh my God, Peter, you can't marry Lois.
I don't know who any of those people are.
Meet George Jetson.
Side note, but I will never fucking understand how they were able to do this. It's the same theme music and it's extremely on model. Man, before everybody had their IPs and fucking baby boy chokeholds, everything used to be so much fun. What the fuck? It's so sweet, man. I fucking love this episode, despite it being a parody of a movie I've never seen. Look at this scene. I remember the night that this came out, and I still get goosebumps every single time I see it.
I came back thinking I was missing something in my life. But what I almost missed was the best thing that's ever happened to me. Lois Pewterschmidt, will you be my wife?
Yes. Yes, I will.
The way the music just swells up in this crazy looking 360 shot, all while Brian just smiles warmly as the timeline fixes itself. I fucking love this one, man. I'm not gonna lie. I think honestly this might be my favorite portrayal of Peter and Lois's connection. They play around a lot with this in the show, but they really make you feel it here. He's stressed the fuck out for the entire of the runtime and you feel him. And while I think the episode is really great at what it does neglect showing us what exactly Peter feels like he's missing without Lois. Instead, it kind of operates on the plane that we understand the connection of a husband and his wife already, and that this new universe, while funny, it just kind of isn't right. It isn't the one that we've come to love, the one that we're used to. So I mean, I can get it. I can get how someone could think that this is a nice moment, but can also feel like the episode didn't work as hard as it should have to get us here. And I think this issue is indicative of a lot of other sweet moments in Family Guy. Like, yeah, this is a really nice moment, but how did the story earn this moment? Why are we supposed to feel gratified when we get here? Especially in a show like Family Guy where the characters are played with and extended so often. Why is this the one time we're supposed to believe, and what exactly did you do to make us believe?
Who ate all the pecan sandies?
And I'm a gay alien.
Dog Bites Bear is an episode I've talked about already. I did a video on it a few years ago, back before I learned to turn the resample off on Sony Vegas. But I did think it was worth bringing up, especially since it's referenced in the original tweet. Brian destroys Rupert one night while drunk, and Stewie goes to Vermont to scatter his ashes. And Peter shakes Blueberry's hand, refuses to wash it, and Cleveland dresses as Count Chocula.
Did this wrong!
This episode follows a more linear narrative structure, which is a pattern with a lot of these really sweet ones. They really try to fit as much plot in it as they can in order to get you to these moments. But I legitimately believe that, unlike some can say for Meet the Quagmires, the text of this episode actually earns the sweet ending that we get. When Brian follows Stewie to Vermont, they share a couple really important character moments. There's all this stuff right here about Brian not quite understanding why Stewie still holds on to Rupert.
You're the smartest person in the house. You're incredibly perceptive. You're wiser than people 40 times your age. Why is Rupert the one baby thing you're hanging on to? Why are you so upset over a doll when I'm real and I'm still here?
Which is followed by this, with Stewie vocalizing why he's more comfortable being attached to Rupert than Brian.
Because Rupert was going to be with me forever! He wasn't ever going to leave!
So what? I'm not leaving you either.
Brian, let's be honest. You're a middle-aged dog. You don't have that many years left. And one day, all too soon, I'm gonna be crying at your funeral in an Armani suit.
Feels like that story is less about me and more about your suit.
Go to hell!
But the tip of it is this moment right here before all of this, where Brian vocalizes his frustration with the strain of Rupert coming between he and Stewie's relationship.
You know what? It wasn't an accident. I knew he wasn't a chew toy. I was sick of you talking to him all the time. I was sick of you complaining to him about me when I'm right there in the room. And I was sick of always playing second fiddle to that bear. He's not even real.
I think it's really interesting that they give us a taste of what exactly he's talking about in the first act.
What was that, Rupert? Oh, yes. Yes. No.
Are you gonna keep talking like this during the whole thing?
And okay, so if you don't know, this is how the episode ends. Brian and Stewie reach the top of the mountain and scatters Rupert's ashes in this gorgeous looking shot. They start to sing Boys to Men.
How do I say goodbye to what we had?
The episode actually starts to play the real song after this, and we're greeted with a montage with no dialogue of Brian just driving Stewie home, stopping at a toy shop, smiling, placing him in the bed, and giving him a brand new Rupert doll.
Rupert, you've come back to me!
And they kind of just let this rock. I think this shit made me cry the first time I saw it. They don't undercut this moment. The genuine smile on Stewie's face is real. Stewie never finds out that Brian did this for him, nor does Brian care. And I think that's really nice that they set up Brian's selfishness and pay it off with him realizing that Stewie's connection to Rupert is worth so much more than his insecurities as a friend. And it's fucking season 16. And I think that's my point. Everybody just kind of has their point where they just kind of stopped watching Family Guy for whatever reason. But bro, I swear, they never stop trying. One of the best seasons of the whole show is season 19. It's still good. It's still good. If you haven't seen Family Guy in years, this is one I definitely recommend. I cannot stress how good Family Guy can be when they really do go for this kind of stuff. You gotta look for it sometimes, but that show y'all used to love, it's still there. I promise. Oh yeah, that was Paul Walker. I promise it actually makes total sense in context. You should just watch the episode. After a while, the writers realized how fun it is to pair Brian and Stewie together. And that's how we got this episode with the most clever episode title that they ever had until season 19's Pawtucket Pat.
Stop!
Collaborate and listen.
Brian and Stewie starts off a little gross. I'm not exactly a fan of Brian eating Stewie's shit, but at its core, I think it's a really fascinating study on the relationship between these two title characters. It's a bottle episode where Brian and Stewie get locked in a bank vault for 2 days. No music, no cutaways, no farts. There's two characters talking to one another for half an hour. In the bank vault, it's revealed that Brian keeps a gun with one bullet in case he wants to kill himself and a bottle of liquor for his last drink.
I don't know. Sometimes it's all too much.
What is?
Life, everything. Just having the gun here, knowing there's a way out, it helps.
Which is already super heavy, but it leads into this discussion about his purpose and how he feels like his life doesn't really mean anything.
I don't know. I mean, do you really live with purpose?
How could you say that to me?
just calling it like I see it.
In the second act, Stewie drunkenly reveals that he's only around Brian because he's the best of a worse situation. That if he had anybody else inside or outside that crib to connect to, he would. He just kind of settles for Brian. This weighs heavy on the outcome of the conversation.
Dogs are supposed to be able to instinctively live with purpose, not even to have to think about it, just born like that. But I wasn't. You know, I've tried to find meaning in my life, and I just can't.
I really like how this scene feels. I love this real reaction from Stewie.
Yesterday, when you said, I don't live with purpose, you were right. I don't. What purpose does my life have?
I don't like when you talk like this. I mean, I love you as one loves another person whom one simply cannot do without. You give my life purpose. And maybe that's enough. Because that's just about the greatest gift one friend can give another.
Thank you.
I think when I first saw this episode, right, I really liked it, but at a certain point, I kind of found myself feeling this kind of like weird discomfort with it. I feel like while this moment was really nice and earned in context, when you look at the grand scope of this show, it kind of makes all this stuff feel worthless. Brian is really happy and proud to be Stewie's friend, but he also leaves him for dead in Las Vegas. He's an asshole to Stewie when he becomes his publicist. He gives him fucking herpes. Man, that episode fucking sucks. But I've come around on it because I eventually came to terms with how Family Guy as a series is set up. Look at the theme song, it's real Broadway, it's like a show. These characters literally rip their clothes off and show you that they're performers. And that's indicative of what the show is. Family Guy works best when you look at it as condensed stories with some continuity, put on by a bunch of people who know that they live in a cartoon. It's the Mario Brothers, it's Mickey, Donald, and Goofy, and sometimes it's like fucking Scooby-Doo. These characters are not real, nor are they made to feel real. They just put a show on for us every week. It's not that nothing really matters, but they do pick and choose what matters each week. Peter cares about Meg when it matters. Lois can hear Stewie when it matters. Brian is an ass to Stewie when they feel like it'll be funnier for the plot, whenever that's the actual direction that they want to go. And I can understand how that could not work for someone. It's super unconventional and it's not exactly how stories are normally told. But I do find it really interesting and fun. But that could just be me, and that's cool. But yeah, I think with that thought process, that's how I was able to come around on this one. When I let my guard down and stopped taking every single thing that these characters did so damn seriously. Brian and Stewie is a really sweet exploration of the relationship between two guys who've been through a lot together. And I think it truly does succeed at every single emotion it goes for better or for worse, I guess. I think I want to talk about these last two because they kind of do something similar. The episodes themselves aren't inherently sweet, but it's those little 4-fact things that the Fox shows started doing. Those are the parts of these that get me. Adam West High and Wild Wild West are both reactionary to the 2017 passing of the GOAT, Adam West. Adam West High sees Quagmire and Brian running against each other for mayor. An alright episode, I'll admit that one of my least favorite character dynamics is Quagmire hating Brian. Mainly because everything he hates him for is shit that he did himself.
You are the worst person I know. You constantly hit on your best friend's wife.
Would you just sit down and go to the bathroom already?
But it never actually ends with the town finding a mayor. A few years later, Wild Wild West picked up on this and has Peter seek out Adam West's cousin to fill in as mayor.
You guys don't know Wild West?
No, and please don't diminish us for not knowing the same things you know. You know how to land an airplane? No, you don't, asswipe.
I'm sorry, I see you, Quagmire, I do.
Thank you.
It's fucking Sam Elliott, fam. How could this shit not be good?
If you're looking for something rugged, something durable, something with an endless supply of gas and a tailgate made for dumping, then you must be looking for Meg Griffin.
Wild Wild West is definitely the superior episode in my eyes. I honestly think that it's in my top 10 Family Guys ever, if I'm being totally honest. There's an atmosphere in this one that isn't present in any other ones, and I think it's because they really go for that Western aesthetic.
Anyway, I thought you would be the perfect person to take his place as our mayor.
Peter, Have you ever killed a man?
Adam West High's ending is really simple, but I do think that it's very sweet. They renamed James Woods High to Adam West High. It stays like that throughout the duration of the series. The reveal is backed with this beautiful sounding soft version of the Family Guy theme, and I don't know where this footage of him comes from, but it makes me emotional every single time.
I want to be a mayor in real life. So I'm here to ask you to make me the mayor of your town. Vote for me, Adam West. It'll be a home run.
And side note, but I think it's really cute that this moment translates to the credits. Adam West is widely remembered as the 60s Batman, and they include a rendition of the Family Guy theme in that style. While I'm at it, a special shout out to season 17's Pawtucket Pete, which opens with the tribute to Angela, Peter's old boss, who was played by the late Carrie Fisher, also known as Princess Leia in another movie I haven't seen. Starts off with Peter just kind of doing a theme song bit.
So no one told you life was gonna be this way, Angela.
But it ends with one of the sweetest lines in the history of Family Guy.
I may have lost a boss, but heaven has gained a princess. And I am at the wrong funeral.
Nice. Wild Wild West ends with all of the characters sitting by a campfire as Peter and Wild West sing Blue Shadows on the Trail from the Three Amigos.
Arizona moon, keep shining from the desert sky above.
It's just a really fucking nice, sweet, and warm moment. And honestly, sometimes that really is all you need to put your audience at ease. The story does not have to have all these twists and turns. The characters don't have to learn these life-changing lessons. I don't know, I think that sometimes we just lose sight of the fact that the sweetest moments of our lives, the ones that leave just such a clear impression, are sometimes the simplest. They do this in Ted too. Mino Moon is great. I think it's the best thing about the movie or whatever, but they did not earn this moment, I promise you.
Where the hell is everyone? Ah, okay, now it makes sense.
So, I mean, like, look, right, with all this laid out on the table, what exactly can we gather from all of this? I don't know, I feel like Family Guy is a different show than what people give it credit for. The show definitely had an era where it was super offensive, and still, today they do some things where I'm just like, nah fam, why the hell would y'all do that? And I think there's definitely episodes where they go for the emotion and it falls completely flat. I fucking hate Screams of Silence. That domestic abuse one, I think that shit is grossly handled. A lot of the stuff with Ida makes me super uncomfortable with how they handle her character and treat her throughout the years. And I'm not too big of a fan of like that episode when Brian died, my nigga. Like, this show is far from perfect. I've seen every damn episode of this shit. This video is not an excuse for anything that Family Guy has done wrong. It is a study of what happens when Family Guy does right. Family Guy can still be really dumb and offensive while also having real, genuine, sweet moments. Both can still be true without one having to cancel the other out. I completely understand it will not argue with you. If the reason you can't watch this cartoon is because it offended you or it made you feel uncomfortable, like, I can totally understand that, and I think it's valid. Your feelings are valid, and I'm not here to invalidate them. But I do think this is a conversation worth having for people that think that the show is lazy, or the people behind it aren't talented, or that it's like incompetently made. And I don't know, I feel like it's unfair to write off the efforts of all of these super talented people just because you gave up on the show 10 years ago. Just because you stopped looking does not mean that they stopped trying. And I think Family Guy is extremely capable of being the show that everybody claimed that it used to be. This really sincere show about a guy and his family, a boy and his dog, a husband and wife, but it's not 1999 anymore. I totally get being turned off because the characterization you are attached to is gone, but I just think 20 years of television shouldn't be written off just because you didn't like what they did 10 years ago. Every once in a while, and this kind of goes for like all the Fox shows, all the adult animated comedies, they'll just give you that moment where you'll finally see it. You'll see Homer and Marge ride off into the sunset. Because this white nigga right here, let me tell you something, he definitely makes me laugh and cry.
Let's walk, let's walk, let's walk.
Who would have thought? Who would have damn thought? Wait, are we over 30 seconds yet? Who would have fucking thought? Shit, don't make no difference to me, bro. Shit, Family got mad easy to talk about. Throughout the course of the run, relationships in Family Guy hasn't necessarily been something that they put a lot of stock into. And like, I get it though. Like, initially I get it. Like, the show likes to play around, it likes to stretch things, it likes to throw its characters in different scenarios or whatever. And as a result, some things aren't consistent. Some things just don't hold up when you pair them against each other or whatever. But some things are true most of the time, right? Quagmire hates Brian most of the time. Stewie loves Rupert most of the time. And Stewie and Brian are friends most of the time. But let's take that a little deeper. What if I told you that Brian and Stewie are not only best friends as presented in the show, but Brian almost acts as his father? Nah, this ain't some kind of crack theory about how Brian fucked Lois and had a fucking seed or whatever. That should be gross. I'm not doing that up here. But I think it'll be interesting to sit back and analyze how for the past 20 years, Stewie's actual parent was Brian. Talking about Family Guy characters on the internet is really hard because it's like everybody has their minds made up before you could even open your damn mouth. I personally think that a lot of you niggas just get really caught up in trying to look at these characters as actual people in real life instead of just like stupid, mean cartoon characters like you're supposed to, but whatever.
Jerome, can you tell that piece of shit asshole to fucking get the hell out of here before I fucking kick him in the face?
I already know I'm about to get 10 paragraph long comments that I'm not gonna fucking read just off that sentence alone. But I do think that analyzing the few consistent aspects of this show is very interesting. And Stewie and Brian's relationship is one of those things. Over time, I started to realize that Brian spends more time with Peter and Lois's son than they do. To the point where they've gone to different countries together, going back in time. This nigga got shot.
Ah, Stewie!
And they don't even seem to fucking notice. Not only that, but I go as far as to say that Brian is the only character that has Stewie's best interest at heart most of the time. And before you start too, like, I'm well aware of the fact that there's episodes where this isn't exactly like consistent and he's just like an asshole to Stewie. And I am extremely aware of the fact that this is just a wild thing to conceptualize with Brian in general, since this nigga got a whole fucking kid that he actively avoids. I ain't seen this nigga Dylan in like 6 years on bro.
I actually have a kid.
Oh, that's sweet. How old is he?
I don't know. How long ago was Ratatouille?
But I do think that what I am actually going to talk about has a very visible and clear pattern that's worth bringing up. A few months ago, right, I remember rewatching season 14's The Peanut Butter Kid. And it's really what started this thought process. I even tweeted about it. Peter and Lois want to stack some more bread for Stewie's college fund, which ends up with them getting him some acting gigs. Not before long, they forget about all that college shit and start spending the bread on like bad bullshit. They got this nigga drinking Molly milk just so he could keep the energy up because they working him so hard.
Whoa, mama, there's a kick like a mule. Who will buy this wonderful morning? Such a sky you never did see.
There he is.
And who is it that tells them that they shouldn't do this to him and just let him be a baby? Brian.
I mean, the world of child acting can be a pretty bad environment for a kid. Maybe we should just let Stewie's childhood be about being a child.
Wasn't your kid an actor, you jagoff?
Didn't your father hate your guts and die?
Peter and Lois, Stewie's actual parents, lose sight of the fact that not only are they overworking their fucking 1-year-old, but that they weren't even saving the bread that they should be using for his college fund. And most of the episode is Brian yelling at them, trying to tell them that they're wrong. Also in season 14, there's this episode, A Lot Going On Upstairs. If you thought we was about to just have one episode example, you got me chopped and screwed, nigga. In this one, Stewie starts to have these crazy ass nightmares with this big ass, wild ass monster. So he builds a machine that Brian can use to go inside his dreams in order to stop everything.
That's right, Brian. I want you to come inside me while I'm asleep.
Don't say it like that.
And Lois, I guess, locks Peter and him in the attic or something like that. When Brian goes in and actually kills the monster, we see that it was actually just him. But why though? Is Stewie like scared of this nigga? Well, no. We actually find out that Stewie is really worried about letting Brian down because, well, shit, he practically just says my fucking thesis. And he just say I'm dragging it now, goofies.
You've been more of a father figure to me than the fat man ever has been or ever will be. Look, I know I'm always busting your balls, but it's just because you're the only person in this house whose judgment actually matters to me.
Wow. Thanks, Stewie.
The episode actually starts with making this Peter and Lois's issue too. Like they have a chance to be actual parents.
I think they've got this thing backwards.
Stewie can't sleep, so the first place that he goes is to his parents. But they don't fucking do anything. In fact, one of them fucking leaves because he can't sleep. I think it's also important to understand and acknowledge that Brian is one of the only people in the family that always has and always could understand Stewie, Chris being a second.
Why are you so negative all the time?
What? I don't know. What?
It's cool they actually set this up in the first season.
The devil are you talking about?
It's your birthday, dude!
And here's a bonus clip of Lois understanding Stewie just because this scene will never not fucking confuse me.
Bye-bye, Stewie. Mommy will be upstairs to kiss you goodnight.
Burn in hell!
Hell. Hell has fire. I agree with Stewie.
Brian understands Stewie more than anyone else can, and I think he knows this. And I think Stewie does too. And because of this, I think Brian takes it upon himself to listen to Stewie and cater to his needs as he's growing up. And plus, I mean, like, look, right? They joke about Brian's intelligence as he becomes more and more pretentious, but he is the closest that Stewie has to an intellectual equal. Like, you can't even talk about something like this without bringing up this scene from season 8's classic Brian and Stewie.
You're my only friend, Brian. If I didn't have you, I'd be lost.
You'd be okay.
No, I wouldn't. I don't really care for anybody else, just you. You're the only one I like.
Despite how inconsistent this cartoon can be, there are more examples of Brian and Stewie caring about each other than them fucking each other over. In the true context of Family Guy, or at least the one that I'm actively willing to count to make my very next point work, Peter found Brian on the street not too long before the start of the series. At least maybe 2 or 3 years, maybe, I don't know. But regardless of how much time it was, Stewie is the only Griffin kid that Brian actually saw grow up. He's the only birth that Brian was around for. He's the only first steps, first word that Brian saw with his own 2 eyes. Brian and Stewie's connection is because they both are the newest additions to the family, and I think because of this, Brian takes it upon himself to make sure that Stewie is okay. Sometimes I'm well aware that this shit isn't carved in the stone, y'all. The show is fucking stupid. Alright, didn't this nigga give him herpes or something?
Yeah, but you know.
But I do think that is really sweet that these 2 characters share that in common, and because of it, they're always there for each other when it truly counts. When you live in a family that's just full of people that don't understand you, it's always nice to have that one person who does. The one person who actually hears you, who gets you on a level that no one else does, who'll jump to your defense no matter what. And what better 2 characters to explore that kind of relationship with than a boy and his dog?
Why are you winking at our baby, you creep? God, that's weird. I don't want to ever see that happen again.
In season 1 of Family Guy, in the 5th episode, A Hero Sits Next Door, Peter Griffin and Joe Swanson meet each other for the very first time. Joe quickly becomes a welcomed member of Peter's friend group, to the point where you simply can't imagine the cartoon without him, despite the episodes where he just doesn't appear, I guess. In season 11, Save the Clam, the bar that these characters go to is in danger of closing down, and Quagmire says this.
Yeah, we got roots here. We've been coming to this place for 15 years.
And maybe Peter and Quagmire have, but this really got me thinking. What about Joe? If Family Guy is a cartoon where none of the characters age, it's implied that all of the events of the series happened within the same year or a few couple of months. And in that case, Peter and Joe have only known each other for a year or 2 or less. But that's the thing. Do Family Guy characters age? And if so, how long ago did Peter meet Joe? I guess we like internalize that they don't age because the designs don't change, but that doesn't mean anything. So join me for however long this video is as I try to figure this out. Bitch ass niggas complaining about how long the intro is in 3, 2...
Suck my dick!
There's two characters in the show who age the most, those being Brian and Meg. It's to be assumed at least that Brian is 7 years old when the series starts, I guess. But at the same time, the first time we hear his age is in season 7's The Man with Two Brians, where Lois says that he's 8 years old.
He jumped into that lake to try and save your life, and he's 8 years old, Peter. 8! That's 56 in human years.
Brian's last age update was as late as last year, in season 20's Cootie and the Blowhard, where we learned at his birthday party that he's 10 years old. And I'm also pretty sure that that implies that we just didn't see his 9th birthday unless I missed something. Which, you know, isn't unlikely. Meg, I feel like, is the more interesting one. Between seasons 1 and 4, Meg is anywhere between 15 and 16. I'm leaning more towards 16 because in I Never Met the Dead Man, Peter teaches her how to drive. A quick Google search tells you that the age that you can have your permit in Rhode Island is 16, and that's episode 2. So even if she is 15 at one point, that shit just happens for like one episode. In season 5's Peter's Two Dads, she turns 17, which is actually directly said by her.
I'm gonna be 17, you jerks!
In season 10's nasty ass, fucking disgusting ass episode Quagmire and Meg, Meg turns 18. That's what the plot is about or whatever. I reanimated part of it.
Meg, I'm only gonna say this once. You may be an adult, but you're still my daughter. And it's my job to protect you from errant wieners. So I don't care how old you are, you're gonna do what I say and get in the damn car!
This is what I'm doing with my time instead of giving you niggas a Static Shock video. These are the only 2 times ages are actually said. But season 18's Better Off Meg has it being her birthday as a plot point. It's revealed in a gag, but it's also part of the story. No age is said in the episode. In fact, they do this dumbass gag that got a chuckle out of me the first time I saw it. But if we're counting it, that would make Meg 19. Saying that she's aged at least 3 years since the show started. Also in season 19, there's Meg Goes to College. And guess what the hell she does in that one? Gets dunked on by her dad.
Dunked on by my dad?
Oh! You gotta get big, Meg.
I know they like to play with the timeline, but this episode was 2 years ago. And until literally this fucking week, Meg has not been seen in high school since, despite us never seeing a graduation. But like I said in last week's Single White Dad, Peter drops both Chris and Meg off at Adam West High. It's worth noting that there's a quick gag in season 14's Papa Has a Rolling Son, where no one shows up to Meg's birthday party, but I'm hesitant to really count this one. Just a few scenes before, they say that it's Father's Day, which is in June, but Meg's birthday is actually in March, so it doesn't really add up. Every once in a while during these videos, I remember that college education that my mother spent all this money on for me to get, only for me to grow up and talk about shit like this for work. I'm not exactly sure how old Chris is when the show starts, but I do know that he's at least 14 by season 4's Jungle Love, because that's when he starts his freshman year of high school. And at the top of season 20's Peter Schmidt Manor, he says he's 15.
Hi, I'm a 15-year-old wild card.
Well, let's get your gun already!
Stewie is more of a headcanon thing for me because they only ever say that he's 1 in like that clip that I showed at the start of the video, but I've been telling myself that he's a toddler in recent years, mainly because around seasons 18 or 19, there became this clear focus on Stewie being in preschool and gaining a nemesis who is dead now, I guess?
Oh, and Doug died in a commuter plane crash this morning.
Admittedly, Peter and Lois are where it gets a little less fun. In the Tan episode from season 5, Lois says that Peter is 43.
You're 43 and you just assaulted our neighbor's child.
Which I'm pretty sure is the first time we hear his age. In season 2's Let's Go to the Hop, Peter and Lois have this exchange.
Thank you for ruining my life. You don't remember what it's like to be my age.
I'm 2 years younger than you.
Putting Lois at 41 at this point, which doesn't exactly track because I'm pretty sure they're both 18 in Meet the Quagmires, but whatever.
Could you let me go back in time and be 18 again?
Wow, 18-year-old Lois. Son of a bitch.
In Underage Peter from season 14, Adam West says that Peter is 42. Pushing him back a year.
And if we can't trust a 42-year-old man to drink responsibly, then I have no choice but to take action.
Then there's a cutaway a whole year later in Peter's Lost Youth, where he claims to be 58, but whatever, it's just a cutaway, I guess.
Peter, what the hell did you do to the house?
I know, it seems pretty lame until you realize I'm 58.
However, 5 years after that, in The Jersey Boar, he says that he's 45.
Why are you at half-mast?
I'm 45, Joe. That's full mast.
Only for it to be reconfirmed last week in Single White Dad.
you're a beautiful woman. You can do better than a 44-year-old morbidly obese guy.
At the end of season 11's Lois comes out of her shell. Lois says,
Peter, I'm 43.
Get out of this house.
After celebrating a birthday earlier in the episode. And she has another birthday in season 17's regarding Carter, but they never specify an age at that time. So the only way that 2-year apart thing from season 2 could work is if we actively ignore this one, since it would make her 44, and we heard Peter literally last week say that he was 45.
He's lying! He's lying!
And it's not Family Guy directly. I guess you can kind of call this one like a little bonus. But one of the first things that I thought about with this is the pilot to the Cleveland show, which practically starts out like a Family Guy episode.
What the hell? He's getting his own show?
Any Family Guy fan from the time can remember scrunching their faces all the way to fuck up when they learned that this is how Cleveland Jr. looked. Because we knew Cleveland Jr. already, and this was him.
Daddy, we got one! Daddy, we got one! Ha ha ha! Fat boy smelled the hot dog. Couldn't help it. We're right in. Ha 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 ha!
A hyper-energetic kid meant to contrast with the slow-spoken, slow-paced Cleveland. But at the top of the Cleveland show, they pretty much directly tell us that he's aged.
I also got custody of Cleveland Jr.
What is he, 14 years old now?
Yep.
We learn now that he's 14. I'm pretty sure this is his updated age. I don't think we ever had a set age for the original Cleveland Jr., but I've always headcanoned him to be around like 9 or 10 around that time. I'm pretty sure there's other characters with birthdays and everything too.
You guys are sharing a room? You're adults.
I'm not paying full price for a room.
Have some self-respect. You're 40.
But I definitely felt like these were the most interesting. So to answer my question at the top, I guess, how long ago did Peter meet Joe? However long the writers feel like that day. It could have been last week, it could have been last year, it could have been last decade. Who knows? I'd be shocked if they actually gave a shit about this, because if they do, they damn sure got a funny way of showing it, because none of this shit makes any sense. All in all though, there's a small layer of consistency. Chris is definitely an early teenager, and Meg is always just a few years older. Stewie is always exceptionally younger than everyone, and Peter and Lois are always in their 40s. All I know for sure is that Bonnie was definitely pregnant for 6 years, and nobody called the hospital.
Okay, first of all, Bonnie, you've been pregnant for like 6 years, all right? Either have the baby or don't.
Family Guy, Baby, Stewie Griffin. Who can understand him? Who can't understand him? Let's find out. I'm sick of writing these intros to these videos. If you clicked on this, you already know what the fuck Family Guy is, so here.
Let's go, go, go!
On the subject of who can understand Stewie, let's break it up into 3 different categories: always, sometimes, and never. And with the show as inconsistent as Family Guy is, you can already tell which one has the most characters. For the sake of simplicity, let's not include children characters. If there's a toddler, they can more than likely understand Stewie because he's more than likely the only character that actually interacts with them anyway. If you have to question if Doug can understand Stewie, you just don't know who Doug is. And honestly, neither do I. This nigga just kind of showed up one day, bruh. Also, I think it's safe to say that we should leave the Stewie Kills Lois 2-parter out of this discussion because, spoiler alert for a fucking 15-year-old episode of television, but that episode is entirely a simulation and didn't actually happen. I also understand that this is just a stupid, silly cartoon and it's not that serious, nor do the writers actually care about any of this. I'm just doing this because I can, and if you have an issue with that, you the one that clicked on the thumbnail, bruh. I don't really know what to tell you. You just gotta do some like soul searching or some shit. Let's get the always characters out the way. The obvious one being Brian. Whoa, Assahoy. Brian and Stewie's relationship is arguably the most important in the entire show, and it's all based on their back and forth, their banter. If you want to hear more about their connection, check out this video that I did on them. I'll talk about Family Guy a lot up here, partially because I have no self-control. Then there's Chris. Stewie and Chris is a duo that the show focused on a lot more recently, but I think people only casually familiar with the show don't even realize that it's an actual thing. I didn't realize it at first, but they actually set them up understanding each other as early as the 3rd episode.
Hey, Stinky, have we got some big plans for you?
Plans? The devil are you talking about?
It's your birthday, dude!
And in recent years, there's been full episodes where the two of them have interacted, had adventures. It's nice. Stewie, Chris, and Brian just kind of have their own little squad going on. And whoever the hell Eric is.
You know who would love this? Eric.
Oh, yeah, this is right up Eric's alley.
The sometimes is where I think it starts to get really interesting. Early on when Stewie would talk, the family would like look at him and everything, but as the years go on, they barely even flinch. Just because they look at him though doesn't mean that they actually understand what he's saying. They could just be hearing goo goo gaga shit every time he peels his lips open. You never really know. So it is proven on multiple occasions that Peter can understand Stewie, but only to a certain degree. If you ask me, I'd say that this starts as early as Brian and Love in season 2. Fam, this clip was impossible to find because I don't think anyone remembers it.
Hey, I ought to just give you some beer. It goes right through you.
Wonderful, and while we're at it, we can light up a doobie and watch porn.
Yeah?
Like, notice how he very clearly heard all of that. In the courtship of Stewie's father from season 4, the two spend the entire episode together, and that understanding bits and pieces thing really tracks here. He can tell Stewie's highs and lows and his emotions, and he responds to them, but not directly to anything that he's saying for the most part. But then there's moments like this one where Peter directly answers a question that Stewie asks.
You think he's dead?
Nah, he'll be back on his feet in no time. Probably following Jonathan Dolgen's footsteps, wind up with a pod deal over at Touchstone.
But the most important thing about this aspect, I think, is that it's actually said by Peter himself multiple times. They have this conversation in Dead Dog Walking.
You're such a bitch.
She's a bitch. Meg, you said you wouldn't tell Stewie's secret.
Stewie, you told Dad?
I had to get it off my chest. I didn't think he'd understand me.
I understand pieces now and then.
And he says this in Inside Family Guy.
But I know now that I'm nothing without all of you.
Oh, that's nice of you to say.
Thank you, Stewie, who I can understand.
Which is like barely canon, but whatever. In just last week's season 21 episode, Peter goes looking for Chris and walks in on Stewie, and they have a quick back and forth.
Yeah, Pop, what's up?
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I think really the hardest one to crack the code on is Lois, Stewie's mom.
Lois! 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 Mom! 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 Mommy! 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 Mama! Mama! Mama!
What?
Hi.
To my knowledge, or at least to my recent memory, Lois understands Stewie word for word a total of 2 times throughout the entire series. That's this clip from Mind Over Murder, a season 1 episode where she responds to him telling her to burn in hell.
Bye-bye, Stewie. Mommy will be upstairs to kiss you goodnight.
Burn in hell!
Hell. Hell has fire.
And there's this bit from the family history episode that gets shared on Twitter all the time, where Peter tells the family that he doesn't like The Godfather.
You know, I can't even get through. I can't even finish the movie. I've never even seen the ending.
You've never seen the ending?
Well, how can you say you don't like it if you haven't even given it a chance?
I agree with Stewie. It's not really fair.
I think early on, Lois could at least understand Stewie's mood.
Bend down, Mother.
Yes, honey.
Kind of like what I was saying about Peter earlier. If he was upset, she could tell that he's upset. If he's happy, she can tell that he's happy. But lately, it just kind of seems like all of that just kind of falls on deaf ears.
I need to show them that I deserve to be Customer of the Week.
You don't.
Well, they probably see a woman like me and think, she's got it all.
They don't.
There's also the theory that the family could always hear Stewie, that they just choose to ignore him, but I don't think that I like this one. This nigga be coming a little too crazy for it to be like, oh, that's just baby talk thing. Nigga saying Seth said it, but what the fuck does he know? He ain't been in a writer's room since 2011. Go read a book or something. And here's a quick lightning round of miscellaneous characters. When Stewie and Brian travel back in time with Mort in season 7, he can understand him the entire time.
Whenever. Damn it, will you two just get in the fucking time machine?
But they rarely even glance at each other throughout the rest of the series after this. Stewie tells both Joe and Cleveland that their outfits don't work, but Again, only once. Loretta tells Stewie to his face that she barely understands the gist of what he's saying.
Really? Isn't she one of those people outside the family who can understand me?
No, I think because of Cleveland, she's close enough to the main cast that it might be a little weird.
Really?
We're filming.
Well, I get the gist of what you're saying, Stooley.
In season 5, Brian and Stewie get in Adam West's car and ask him to follow a truck. But this one's a little tricky because they both say it at the same time.
Follow that truck. Didn't you hear me? I said follow that truck.
Oh, I heard you. What I didn't hear was please.
Please follow the truck.
And in season 16's Send in Stewie Please, Stewie has a full-on in-school therapist that understands everything he says easily.
This is my real voice.
So then we finally move on to the Never characters. I think the only immediate Griffin family member that has never been able to hear Stewie once in the entire 21 seasons of the show's run is Meg. There are Meg and Stewie episodes and there are Meg and Stewie moments with them together for sure. But as far as I know, she understands that Stewie can do all of these extravagant things like go back in time or save her from human trafficking, long story. But I think she just hears baby talk when he speaks.
No, don't leave me on the phone with her.
Stewie?
Hey, how's school?
Hi, Stewie.
Never have these two had one real actual conversation or a regular natural back and forth. I've seen Lego My Mego be referenced in this conversation before, like just through my research, but Meg actually never talks to Stewie in that.
Stewie?
Hi, Meg.
I know I referenced Cleveland and Joe earlier in the lightning round, but honestly, those could just be seen as quick jokes. I don't think anything else tracks to lead you to believe that these characters can understand this baby. I've been kind of thinking that unless it's just for like a quick gag like those, for the most part, if there's an adult that's close to Peter or Lois, they just can't understand Stewie. That includes other family members like Carter and Babs. However, someone like Elle, who's practically created as a Stewie-centric character at first, and has only recently been seen hanging out with Lois and the girls.
Tell us, after you had dinner, how was the pork?
Who is this bitch?
Can still understand them as far as I know. In season 21, Quagmire and Stewie spend the entire episode together and Quagmire does not understand him once. There's even been times that Brian and Stewie are on screen having a conversation with Quagmire, but it is very, very clear that only Brian is heard. And I think that's just how they're gonna keep it, to be honest. The season 19 premiere is titled Stewie's First Word, and it kinda insinuates that the show kinda operates on this Rugrats logic. That eventually Stewie will be heard, but it has to be through his sheer passion and emotion. In the second Rugrats movie, it's because Chucky really doesn't want his daddy to marry his French lady. And in Family Guy, it's because he can't have cookies in church.
I agree with Stewie.
This is the explanation they gave.
Why did everyone suddenly understand you now?
I don't know. I was feeling so much intense emotion in the moment, and that one word somehow just burst through.
So I guess now every Griffin can understand Stewie if he either says fuck or mommy. Or at least whenever he means those things. I don't know, man, who cares? None of this really matters, like, at the end of the day. I think Family Guy is funny because none of this stuff is actually consistent, and they use it to mold these fun character relationships. Is Stewie being passive-aggressive to Lois just as funny if she could actually hear him? Fuck no. Does a story about Chris and Stewie and Rupert function properly if Chris can't hear him? Of course not. I think it's cool that this show has been on long enough to the point where people just kind of stop caring to figure this out, and they could just sit back and let the show steer the ship. It's not perfect, but honestly, if that's what you're looking for, you've definitely been watching the wrong cartoon this entire time.
There is some set of rules about it. Brian obviously understands them. We go out of our way to make sure that Lois or Peter doesn't. Sometimes if he's outside the house, strangers that we're going to see for one episode and maybe not come back to, we'll make the allowance.
Within the family, there, it's like we made sort of a leap with Chris this year that, all right, well, Chris, he can interact with Chris in a real way. He can't really interact with Meg or Peter or Lois because the idea is that they're old enough that there is a separation. Once you get out of the house, as Steve says, it really depends on the story. If it's funnier for the story that there be a language barrier, great. If it's better for somebody to understand them so there can be interaction, that's great too. And it's there is room for messing with the rules if it suits the comedy.
Oh, Peter, isn't he amazing?
Is he smart? Or is he like me?
He's perfect.
You guys heard the baby talking in there, didn't you?
Chris, that's ridiculous.